Cool. Guess my mic's on? Yeah. Perfect.
That's we're ready.
Well, we already got introduced. I cannot do a better job of introducing myself than Kashif just did, but why don't you tell a bit about
maybe
yourself?
some tidbits about me that weren't mentioned. So I'm born and raised here in Helsinki, living in northern Helsinki with my lovely wife and 3 children. I started in Suomen Asiakastieto in 2016 and as a developer and worked my way up to the lead developer and joined the architecture team a little bit over a year ago. You could say that I've kind of worked my way up the tech stack during the years and gotten more experience of our systems and have been heavily involved in the OpenShift-related activities and development in my years in Asiakastieto. And today I work with the Nordic architecture team and we strive to build more Nordic services instead of country-specific services and do the stuff together in OpenShift.
Perfect. Yeah, I guess I'll give a couple of more words about myself. So we actually used to be colleagues with you. So I used to work for Suomen Asiakastieto / Enento for about 6 years. Been with Red Hat for 3 years now. Did development with my previous career and eventually became architect. Now, for the last couple of years, I've been in sales, so I betrayed y'all pretty badly, but hope you'll give me a chance anyway. Okay, let's get into it. But in case you don't know what Enento Group is about, maybe Juuso, you can tell them just a little bit about.
I'll introduce Enento Group briefly. So, Enento Group, we're a Nordic company. We do a lot of financial information, consumer information, credit information, real estate information, so information all around. We're kind of a Nordic powerhouse in that sense. We refine data and intelligence and create insights for our customers to do more informed decisions and create trust in that way. Asiakastieto has its roots way back in over a century ago. We were formed by a group of banks and different retail chains and different entities that required credible credit information for consumers. And since 2015, we have been listed in Nasdaq Helsinki as well, and we changed our group name to Enento Group from Asiakastieto Group, and we've merged with UC and with also have acquired a lot of companies, as you can see. So we have a lot of brands that are known in the country. So in Finland, we have Asiakastieto and E-maileri, and also Prof, which is a new addition. And in Sweden, UC and Allabolag are the biggest players, and also Prof there. And for Norway and Denmark, we are keeping on growing mainly under the Prof umbrella. Yeah, so ultimately what we do is build trust in the everyday decisions across borders, sectors, and technologies.
Cool, thank you. So, all right, so full disclosure, as we were pitching this presentation, it was said this is not a marketing event, this is not non-commercial stuff. So I'll tell you right up, there's going to be screenshots and stuff about what they are using, and yes, it's Red Hat stuff, which is based on open source. So whenever you hear Red Hat ACS or Advanced Cluster Security, that's what they're using, but it's built out of 100% open source things. If you want to build the same sort of thing, that's the tech stack you're going to want. There's technology and there's configuration in there. So StackRox and Claire are the things that we use, the tech stack we use for all of these security things we're about to talk about, and then it's configured with various sources for this vulnerability data, all of which are open as well. You can build this out for, you don't have to buy this from Red Hat, even though the UI might be different if you build it out and that sort of thing, but it will be same. Fair enough? Okay. Yeah. Someone's going to drag me off the stage here soon for breaking the rules. All right, so tech-wise, here's what we're working with. So we have something called the Central. You're going to see screenshots of that. It's a central place for the security views and that sort of thing, for the security stuff we're about to see. And underneath, what's happening is that in every cluster, every Kubernetes cluster that we have, we install a couple of components, mainly for observing and scanning the cluster in question, reporting back to the central place where all of our vulnerability and security data is collected into a database from where it can be, displayed to the user because it's collected. You can see across clusters and that sort of thing. Okay, so that's the technology we're working with. And I think next up, I'm going to hand it back over to Juuso. So a few years back, you started a project implementing this this stack. Can you tell us a little bit about what you were trying to accomplish?
Yeah, so when we first started implementing ACS, we had 4 main goals. Firstly, we wanted to build a robust pipeline, not only that scans for vulnerabilities, but actively blocks the deployments if there is anything vulnerable about to be deployed or be pushed into any environments. So it's and ACS gave us the confidence to do that and to scan the builds and images and to block them if anything seems wrong. Secondly, we wanted to give clarity for the developers what they are building, what kind of dependencies they are using, what kind of software they are shipping. So we wanted to give the visibility to the developers to see what kind of vulnerabilities are there in their applications even before they go into any cluster or production environment. And it helps. This visibility helps to build trust throughout the organization and between the developers, and it also reduces a lot of surprises and surprise costs down the line. Also, we wanted to have more visibility into the production, not just logs and metrics, but we wanted to actively monitor the situation that we are having in our environment and see what's running, what's vulnerable, and how things are overall behaving on the runtime. So this ACS helped us move a lot from the more help us move to more reactive approach to have more dynamic and ongoing monitoring. And it also made the cluster security feel a lot more grounded in reality when we kind of had the overall idea of what's going on in production. And finally, and maybe the most importantly, we wanted to have the ability to prioritize our security improvements. Technical debt is always there. I assume you guys also have some technical debt in your companies, and with a century-old company, you can probably imagine the kind of tech debt that gets built over the years. So we wanted to have the visibility to better focus our resources and efforts to those pain points and most vulnerable applications and the worst vulnerabilities that we have had running at that time. So ACS also, it helped. This made us easier to focus our efforts and have the security work be more focused on the actual issues, and also helped us to fix critical issues in production faster when they came up. So it also made us react faster. But of course, security is a journey, it's a marathon, it's never really done. But ACS kind of gave us a good solid foundation where to start and a real sense of progress that we're actually making headway and getting somewhere.
Perfect. Now, let's get to when you were just starting out with this. Okay, so you install the things, you install the operator, you install the tech stack, it starts collecting data, starts doing scanning. And this is the sort of thing that you're gonna find after the first scan is done. You're gonna see something like this. It's a bunch of things. So there's a dashboard. You can see stuff. You can see the most riskiest images that you have. It's there on the top right. You can see the most riskiest deployments on the bottom left, and so on and so forth. And out of the box, some policies have already been enabled. And it's going to report against those vulnerabilities that have been found, that you're already violating some default policies. And in this case, it's about 600 of them. So how did it feel to get this sort of thing happening in front of your eyes for the first time?
Yeah, well, you can probably imagine it wasn't a pretty sight, and it was like a Christmas tree going off, and not really in a festive way. So it was red and yellow and orange lights blinking all around, and it was frankly kind of terrifying and overwhelming, and it was really hard to kind of know where to actually start. And I think that's the kind of first learning moment here, is just to do it. You have to start somewhere. It is overwhelming. You don't know where to start. There's the endless list of CVEs, but the thing is that you just have to pick out some applications, some services, some teams, and start making headway and kind of knocking the big trees down first to get to the smaller bushes, so to speak. And Yeah, so I guess the key lesson is that you don't need to do everything at once. So we picked those few more mature teams and more mature services that we knew that we could kind of get them to start using the ACS first, and onboarded them, and they made headway and solved a lot of the issues, and can kind of act as kind of evangelist for the company and spread the information and the knowledge of ACS to other developers as well. And one of the key things that you kind of saw from the last picture was the overwhelming amount of violations and other issues that we had. So one of the key things that we did was to use policies to limit the scope. So we created policies that suited our company and our services the best, to better kind of show the most relevant things and most relevant issues that we need to tackle first. So yeah, it's overwhelming at first, but the trick is just to start and get some few wins under your belt, and hopefully get the ball rolling from there on out. Yeah. Very
good. So getting on to something more concrete here, shifting left is a term we hear about often, yeah? Mm-hmm. And the idea with this stack is that we bring security to the whole life cycle of a container, in the build phase, in the deployment phase, and in the runtime phase. Okay, so this is obviously from the build phase. Guess you've all seen the pipeline before. So there's this scan that's happening in this particular pipeline, and the idea is that with this this stack with the Claire scanner and the stack rocks, what you get is a scan of the whole image. So if you have an image with an application in there, let's say you have a Java application, yeah? You're gonna have a base image with some libraries, like an open JDK in there somewhere or something like this. And then other libraries, and then you drop your application on top of that. If it's Java, it's maybe built out of a POM XML file, right? And some executable thingy. Oh. Well, this will scan the whole thing, the application dependencies and the libraries, everything that's in the image, yeah? So that's what you get. So then you can run the policies against the container already in the build phase. So let's say you want to avoid having, in Java world, you might want to avoid having the log4j problem in your container, right? So you'll enable the policy, say to enforce that on the build phase, and you get some red if that happens. It's not gonna be built out. So building out a pipeline like this, with the StackRox and Claire scanners, what were some of the difficulties you ran into? Because it's not all green, is it?
Yeah, it is not. Yeah, of course, the kind of classic issue is that there are vulnerabilities that you need to fix. That's a kind of a no-brainer. What we kind of biggest issue that we ran into first was the false positives. We were using a base image that had some dependencies that the ACS deemed vulnerable, but when we digged more into it and investigated a little bit more, we realized that those were actually patched versions that the scanner was kind of comparing to the original version that had the dependencies. So with this understanding, we kind of had to build a process around the tool. So the key was understanding your tool in this sense. So we built a clear process with tandem with our IT security management, that if someone suspects that it's a false positive or has a good reason to know it's a false positive, for example, using the page image where we know there is the vulnerability false positive, then they can go to the dashboard, they can flag it as a false positive there. It goes to review for the IT security management, and the IT security management reviews it and verifies it or defers it. If it's kind of confirmed as a real false positive in that sense, then it will be omitted in the future builds, so the developers won't get bogged down with the same issue on and on. Also, we had this process, then we expanded it to, it also organically expands to you for the other use cases. So if you have a CV that is not critical enough to warrant an immediate fix, you can defer it for 2 weeks or a month or how long you want, and then you can kind of move on for the time being, but it will pop up back at some point, so you can't just bury it and move on, so to speak. So, yeah, and the same process also is part of the policy violations and not just about the CVEs and the vulnerabilities in the dependencies itself. And of course, there are times when the scanner itself has some issues. Maybe there's been an unsuccessful update, or that there's network issues, as you all probably have already faced at some point, or the scanner itself is not just functioning as it should be. Then what do you do at that point? We kind of faced these issues a couple of times when we were starting to use ACS, and the developers were, of course, pinging in Slack, like, builds are not going through, what are we going to do, what can we do, can we actually build it, can we deploy this, what's the correct way of action? And we kind of wanted to give the trust to the developers and give the tools to the developers to then bypass the step if they deem it necessary, but also, quoting Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility, and we had to kind of drill into them that what does it actually mean when you bypass the ACS? It's not just some random checkbox that you kind of dismiss and then you're good to go. It's something that it's a conscious decision that you are bypassing a security check. So it's important that you know that then something can get through and will probably be picked up later when the image is running in some environment, hopefully not in production, but yeah. Yeah, so I guess this learning moment is about the kind of corner cases that you will face with, like with all softwares. Not all softwares fit your company or your use case perfectly, so you have to kind of find your own process and hone it and make it work for you.
Perfect. Well, that was comprehensive. Okay, so build pipeline is one thing, specifically addresses one thing along the whole life cycle, right? But you also need some bird's eye views to see your security posture in a more comprehensive manner. And as Juuso already said, you'll never fix everything, and sometimes different stakeholders are more interested in different things, right? So this view in particular, I just picked it out of random. It's from their environment. We just settled on this for some reason. It's simple, right? So this one, for instance, shows you these dots here are images, or are they deployments? Sorry, they are deployments. And within those deployments, how many CVEs do they have, right? This one is pretty fat. It's like 180 something. And also their CVSS. So this could be useful for some stakeholders. And then we'll have views for others as well. Can you tell me something about the different stakeholders and how they view your new security tooling?
Yeah, absolutely. As you can probably imagine, the primary beneficiaries are the developers themselves. They get more visibility and control and get to avoid some pitfalls down the road. So when they update their software at the build time and don't push vulnerable code into the further along the line, it makes it easier to control the updates, and it means also that there are fewer emergency fixes. It means that there are fewer production issues because the issues get fixed before they become actual issues. It also helps the developers plan their time a little bit better because they kind of know beforehand what kind of technical depth their application has. So, for example, during sprint planning, it gets easier. Of course, IT security loves it because, as Eero mentioned, they get the bird's eye view. They know the kind of worst offenders and know where to focus their effort and kind of effort and all that stuff. So it makes their prioritization easier, and it also makes their work more reactive, and they get to react to new issues much faster than they could before. Also, project management, they like it because it benefits their planning. They can see the technical debt a little bit better, and the security risk clearer, and the sprint planning becomes more realistic, which also helps the project management, because even though we all want the sprints where we accomplish everything, we all know that's not the reality, and there's always production issues or stuff that you need to kind of do during development of a product. And business stakeholders, maybe the minority kind of benefactor, but still a benefactor, they get a better view of the health of their product, and they can maybe better plan the future roadmap and kind of where we need to do bigger refactoring and where we need to do bigger kind of work on the applications. And finally, the biggest benefactor is you. So not just you here in the audience, but all the people who depend on our services every day. Whether it's someone buying with credit, applying for a loan, or using the financial insights that we provide directly or indirectly, they're the ones who benefit with this from the security the most. Because when we secure the systems, everyone's data stays safe, their experience is more seamless, and the trust that we provide only grows stronger. And in the end, the secure system is not just a technical achievement, it's a promise that we want to deliver to all of our customers.
Awesome. Okay, so personally, I am big into developer productivity, yeah? And a concept I like to talk about when I'm talking about developer productivity is cognitive load. Now, that's something that's built into us, and the idea is that we can only keep a couple of things in our brains at the same time. We have a very limited working memory, right? So to contrast that, the modern development life cycle of an application is quite complex. You have your CI/CD tooling, you have your code quality tooling, your project management tools, bug tracking, documentation, API management, you have your metrics and monitoring and APM and all of these things, right? You have a billion tabs on your web browser open at the same time, don't you? I see few people smiling. They don't dare raise their hands, but I know you're all doing it as well. And yes, security is one of those things, right? So for this topic as well, what you do not want to do is give them yet another tool, yet another box, yet another toolbox that they have to open every now and then, because that's context switching and that's expensive in the brain, right? So what you want to instead do is embed this security tooling within your pre-existing process. You want to introduce something novel to something that everyone already knows, so that the impact will be much smaller for the brain, right? So this screenshot is from Enento Slack, and it's notifying the team about some vulnerability that happened on a Thursday last month. Has it been fixed?
Yes.
Thank God. So what have you guys learned about including security within your existing development process?
Yeah, so I guess what it kind of boiled down was it has to become a routine. It has to become a part of the developer's kind of routine daily work, and being part of the CI/CD pipeline is a big part of that. And security work isn't always glamorous, and honestly, it can be really repetitive at the times, but that's actually the point. When it's done right, it just becomes a part of the workflow and not something that causes friction or frustration and something that you have to kind of actively context switch to. And I think our routine came down to a few choices that we made. We had a weekly CVE list, which is a kind of a list of vulnerabilities and new vulnerabilities that have been spotted that is distributed to some key personnel for them to process and to distribute the work forward. We have the Slack alerts, as Eeros just showed us in the previous screenshot. Those help the developers to react to those new vulnerabilities faster and in more real time. We also have it's Jira really, but it's Jira integration to create tickets about the most critical vulnerabilities, so they actually get embedded to the project workflow and to assigned to some developer and team. And of course, the CI/CD, as I mentioned, it's part of the workflow, it's part of the pipeline, it's part of the daily work. And this also reflects the broader principle that we wanted to make a conscious move to shift security left to give it more in the hands of the developers and to actively get them to react to these threats before they actually become a threat. And the impact it was real and measurable. The developers felt more in control, and they started fixing the stuff without them becoming ever an issue and without them actually raising them as issues, just as a part of the normal development work. And new CVEs, yeah, let's talk about new CVEs. And when new CVEs come, especially really critical ones, you all know what kind of buzz that creates inside the organization, and you kind of know the scenario. At least I have a couple of times of experience of this, that there's a Friday afternoon after 4 p.m. I get a mail from the IT security manager that there's a new CVE, what our products are affected, what our services are affected. And in the past, this would have like raised all the alerts. You had to get all the developers digging through their POM XMLs and all their dependency files and trying to find where are we using this, are we using it somewhere, and is this being run somewhere in production. But this time I just opened the ACS dashboard, pasted some CVE codes there so that nothing is impacted, and could close my laptop and start the sauna and started enjoy the weekend with my family. So it was really great and left a really good impression on me. So yeah, the routine really matters. It's not flashy, but what turns the security from being a blocker into a silent, trusted part of the pipeline.
Cool. Don't look at me. You're still up. You're still up.
Yeah. Yeah, so I guess for the last learning moment of the journey, it's looking forward. Yeah, I'm not gonna tell you that we are ready and we have all of the stuff from ACS implemented and the world is ready in that sense. Though it's still a journey for us as well. But once you got the basics down, there is a world of possibilities to expand to. There's let's start with the runtime detection and responses. I think this is really where ACS shines. It actively monitors what's happening inside your containers. So if someone tries to open an interactive shell and do some shell commands there, ACS detects that in real time, and you can configure the policies to either alert the necessary people or to just block the session or even kill the pod if wanted. So you can really ramp the security, especially in the critical services. There's also the process whitelisting, which I think is lovely. So you can kind of spot out suspicious activities like nmaps and curls being run in containers where they really shouldn't be. And ACS catches them, and with the policy enforcement, you get the kind of same kind of actions that you get with the runtime detections and responses as well. And for the network policy simulation and enforcement, I think that's a really powerful tool that we really want to take more into use. It's really useful in the zero trust networking context, which is I think the word of the day in many places. So ACS visualizes the traffic between the pods and the namespaces and all sort of external endpoints really nicely, and helps you understand where the applications are connecting and where they shouldn't be allowed to connect. And you can also kind of observe this traffic and create policies based on the observations. So if the application at some point deviates from these observations, you also get automatic alerts that kind of reduce the risk of anything going wrong. And the behavior baselines are a similar kind of thing. It kind of monitors what's the kind of normal, what does normal look for a workload or a pod. And what it usually happens that if there's something funny going on, like it's talking to some unexpected services or opening straight ports, it gets flagged. And this is incredibly useful for controlling lateral movement inside the cluster. So even if one of your applications gets cracked or gets compromised, then these kind of mechanisms make it really hard to laterally move inside the cluster or access other places that shouldn't be accessible. Yeah, so I think the real power of ACS is how it enables the proactive and intelligent and automated responses. And I really look forward on seeing what the lovely open source community here and all over the world brings what kind of new functionalities they're going to bring, and also what kind of extra layers Eero and the colleagues at Red Hat are going to put on top of that.
We're not supposed to say that. That's all. You have exactly 3 seconds for questions. Go.
Thanks a lot, Juuso and Eero. We can have one question.
Thanks. Hi, thank you for the presentation. In part 4, integrating as part of your daily work, you mentioned Slack integrations. Unfortunately, with Slack integration alerts, people need to be on the other side of the Slack, and some people need to handle those. Could you please elaborate on the processes in your team, how you handle those kind of alerts? Thank you.
Yeah, of course. The Slack alerts are mostly as a kind of a fast-paced, real-time channel for the developers to get the information from the alerts, so they don't realize the CV or whatever vulnerability or policy violation next time they build an image or next time they go to the dashboard to see what's what, and they can get it from there. But of course, it depends on the teams and how active they are in the Slack and how often they kind of follow these Slack messages. But it's really team dependent, and I think it's not the kind of main channel to provide this information. I think it's a nice extra channel to get the information to the developers.
All right, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
So before